remembering.
Yeah. So welcome everybody to this presentation today about Agile in higher education and specifically using Eduscrum and Microsoft Teams to facilitate student engagement. And maybe for a quick check-in in the beginning, what I'd like you to do is to write in the chat to let me know if you know something about Agile or Scrum at the moment. So what do you know about Agile, Scrum at the moment? Okay, so Steven says knows something about Scrum, doesn't know much about Agile. Sandra says nothing. Okay. No, nothing. All right, great. I mean, that's why you guys are here. I'm curious what piqued your interest, right? I'm assuming that you've seen the use of Microsoft Teams. You know, oh, I see Kanbanchi. I don't know. All right.
Free.
We'll check that out. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that, Stephen, when we're through here to see how that would fit in. Jose says he knows a little bit about Scrum, but nothing about Agile. And I'll just let you know ahead of time, Agile is a umbrella term, and Scrum is one of the Agile methods. All right. So let's get started, right? My goal for you all is today at the end that you know what is Eduscrum, that you understand when and where you can use Eduscrum, and then that you also know how to apply this within the Microsoft Teams environment, that you can use Microsoft Teams to collaborate, and then at the end evaluate, hey, is the use of Eduscrum, is that something for me? And is the use of Microsoft Teams, does that make sense of what I'm trying to do in my courses? I'm assuming that you guys are mostly in higher education, but it will be very similar in the K-12 environment as well. So my name is Christian Wandeler. I'm a associate professor at Fresno State, and I'm from Switzerland, from Freiburg, which you can see there on the left. And Freiburg is a city that's right on the border between the French and German-speaking part of Switzerland. And if you know a little bit about Switzerland, it's a very multicultural country. It's a small country, but there's actually 4 official national languages, and French and German are 2 of them. The other 2 are Italian and Retromanche. And
wait, what was that last one?
Retromanche. So that's a very that's a very special language. There's only about 200,000 people that speak this language in the world. And I actually had the great pleasure of just being on sabbatical in Switzerland, and I got home 2 days ago, and we're back here in Fresno, California. And I've been here now over 10 years. My wife is from the Fresno area, and we actually met when I was an exchange student over 20 years ago. My wife then moved to Switzerland. We lived there for 5 years, and then I got a scholarship to attend Stanford University as a visiting scholar. And that initially was just a 1-year stay, and now it's been over 10 years ago. And you know, I've had a tremendous opportunity at Fresno State University in the domain of educational research. And that's what I'm interested in, right? To research how hope develops in young people and in adults, how people learn. I have a background in positive psychology, and for 3-4 years now, I am really into Agile in education, and specifically how to use Eduscrum as a tool. So enough about me. I hope that gives you a little bit of context, a little bit of background. And I want to talk a little bit to you about the future of higher education. You know, where do you see this going? Clayton Christensen, he's a Harvard Business School professor. He said in 2018, half of American colleges will be bankrupt in 10 to 15 years. Right? That was 2 years ago. And Sanjay Gupta, he's saying a few years back here, if you walk into a class today, it doesn't look, smell, or feel much different than it did 40 years ago. Except that tuition is up 1,400%. Yeah. Right? So these kind of two contexts, right? We see there's not a whole lot of innovation when you look at what a general classroom looks like. The cost is extreme, right? And yet half of colleges apparently are going to go out of business, right? So there's something is not quite right in the world of higher education. And I don't want to, chime in too much about these general problems that we might have in higher education, but just to kind of set the context, right? And the thing is that what we see now in higher education are beliefs, actions, results, artifacts. The school system is based on old beliefs, right? On an ancient system. And I'm saying ancient, not as ancient as these pyramids, but it's 100, 200, 300 years old, the way that we approach higher ed, and the old way does not work anymore, right? We're looking at a much more complex environment, right? And the future, it's faster, it's tremendously changing. There's a lot of innovation, right? And how do we stay relevant as higher educators? That's a big piece. And not only how do we stay relevant, but how do we prepare our students to deal with a world like that? And then, right, beginning of this year, this little guy came around, right? You probably recognize it, the COVID-19 virus. And all of a sudden, we're confronted with a new reality. Right? We are forced to change and change very quickly. If you haven't done any remote teaching or remote learning before, now was the time to quickly learn that. And again, it also has a financial impact, right? So there's again to say that not only did we have problems 2 years ago with the finances, the coronavirus is probably going to emphasize that even more. So we're truly living in this VUCA world, which you might have heard about. VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And originally the term was developed by the American military to represent the tremendous difficulty that they dealt with in Afghanistan and Iraq. It was not a conventional war, right? So they had to find new ways of adapting quickly to this the threats that the military was under. So how does and then here, specifically to Corona, right? This is an interesting Venn diagram here, right? Where is the highest risk for catching the COVID-19, right? One is closed spaces. The other one is crowded places and close contact, right?
Sounds like school.
Thank you, Steven. I was just going to ask you guys, right?
Sorry.
No, I love it. I love it. You've seen that right away, right? Highest risk in the middle. Well, guess what? Classroom. It's right there.
Oh, so,
right.
Sorry, Christian. My wife is a teacher, and we're trying to anticipate her going back to school.
Yes.
And it's crazy right now. And I work with teachers throughout the state of California, and this is at the forefront of my mind. It was like an instant trigger as soon as you said, well, what's wrong with this picture? I said, school is right in the middle of the whole thing, making it a very complex decision process. So
exactly, right. The risk is high. And I'm curious, maybe the participants, maybe let us know in the chat, what are the plans of your university or your school for the fall? Are you going to go back online? Are you going back just face to face? Do you have maybe a hybrid model? What's your guys' situation?
You can type the answer in chat or unmute and share your thoughts with us.
Looks like he's just getting started.
Okay, Jose, you're saying that it's kind of possible that you would go back until next January. So is there no school in fall at all? Croatia is going to go back to class. All right. Sandra's saying probably a hybrid model.
But they still don't know. That's the crazy part. As if, what are people waiting for to make a clear decision about what to do? Keeps teachers hanging in the balance.
Right. And we could really argue about how do you make these decisions? What is a good way to make these decisions? But what's really interesting is how do you deal with this uncertainty, right? So I wanted to share a quick example of the Siemens remote work policy. And I thought that was really a genius move. They had two rules. Focus on the outcomes rather than time spent in the office, and trust and empower your employees. Right? So those are their two policies. Right? And you might hear stories about districts who are going to track, attendance time of kids, right? Attendance time, maybe even of teachers, who's logging in, who's logging out. And that just really reflects that old pyramid, that old belief system that we have, right? Instead of focusing on the outcomes, we're trying to focus on stuff that honestly doesn't really matter that much, right? Who really cares how long you were logged in? Or who really cares if you logged in every day, right? If at the end you're able to show outcomes, to show learning, that might be much more important, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and also to really reflect some fundamental challenge some fundamental assumptions that we have about learning. So how does the business world deal with this complexity, right? One way of doing this, one agile method, is the Scrum. And Scrum is a method to work in self-managing teams. And you see here some examples, right? Microsoft that use Scrum, there's banks that use it, there's companies in the food industry that use it. There's all kinds of companies that are leveraging the power of Scrum. One thing that might be interesting is the Spotify. Spotify is really well known to use Scrum or to use agile methods. And the way that they do it is they actually are able to compete with huge companies such as Apple, such as Microsoft, such as Amazon, and they were able to dominate this new space of on-demand music, right? And one thing that has helped them to really persist is that they were really fast and agile the way they developed. Here's some other examples of companies that use Scrum, and the interesting part is that you can actually use Scrum in education. So this gentleman here, Willy Wijnands, is a teacher from Holland who has developed a method called Eduscrum, which is Scrum for education. And I want to share a little bit more with you guys today about this. Usually I do this a little bit more engaging, but we have only a limited amount of time. I want to make sure that I share the key aspects of the information with you guys. And in a nutshell, Eduscrum is an innovative instructional method where we put students into self-managing teams and we make the learning visible. The goal is that students take charge of their learning process and that they really collaborate and develop leadership skills in a team. It also makes it easier for faculty to become facilitators and guides on the side, but still have a clear structure on, not to have too much of a loss of sense of control, but they feel like, hey, we can know where we're at and we can support the students adequately. When you ask me where can you use Eduscrum, you can use that in pretty much any subject, and you can use it for formats such as project-based learning, but also really curricular learning. So for example, you could take a math book or a chemistry book or a history book and convert that in a way that it becomes an Eduscrum format, and where it becomes much more engaging for students. Then what's interesting, it's not just for students, but it's also for teachers and staff and faculty. So for example, faculty can use that to manage research projects or to manage committee work, or administrators can use it to manage their staff interactions, their projects, and specifically in situations like now with COVID-19, where the rules change by the day, policies change, the development of virus changes. So really, it's VUCA environment. Scrum helps to adapt and to stay flexible in the management of this situation. So here's another example here. And the other thing I really want to hone in on is the difference between cooperation and collaboration, right? Nowadays, when you hear people talk about group work, probably a lot of your students are not going to really like it, right? Usually they've had bad experiences in the past where either they were the people that did everything, or they had conflict in the group. So generally, students don't enjoy group work. However, it's one of the most important skills for their career, right? There's a lot of work that's being done in teams, that's being done in groups. So to really know how to work together is huge. And there's a difference between just cooperating, right, where we basically split up a task and each of us does something and then we put it back together, versus really collaborating, creating new things, learning together, creating more shared meaning, right? Those are qualitatively different processes, and what we try to do is to really foster both of these. Okay? And I want to share a little bit more about the process of Eduscrum, and then I'll share with you about how we can use the Teams tool to facilitate that. What you see here is on the left side, you see different roles, right? So there's the product owner, which is the faculty or the teacher, the team of students, and there is a team captain and individual. Right, so the team captain manages the administrative stuff of the team and interacts mostly with the product owner, with the faculty. Right, so each team has a team captain that takes a little bit more responsibility, and then what you also can do is you can rotate that role as well. Then what we do is we are really believers of rapid iteration and fast feedback. Right, that is one of the principles of Agile, to really orient yourself towards the customer or the client, right? And to try to get, as soon as possible, to get feedback to know, are we heading into the right direction or not, right? So if we translate this into the educational environment, right, what we do is we break time down into sprints. A sprint can be 1 or 2 weeks or a month, right? It depends whatever makes most sense for you. And then you can structure this along the semester. So, for example, a semester could be 16 sprints if you have 1 week sprints and you have a 16-week semester, or you could have 2-week sprints and 2-week sprints and then 8 sprints total. Doesn't really matter how you do it. It's just a decision that you can make as an educator. And so in the beginning, you have a planning phase where you develop the plan for the whole semester. And then what we have is at the beginning of every work period, we have this yellow period stand up where the team decides what are we going to work on. Then we have review moments where teams present what they worked on, what the results were. And then we also have retrospectives at the end of sprints where you have more general feedback about what did we do well, what didn't we do so well. The team reflects on their own performance, and the goal is really continuous improvement. So this is far as the process goes. Then here another tool is that you have a flap, a visual board. So each team has one of these. And there's an advantage of having these as a physical tool, right? Because having everything as sticky notes is crucial. And I'm not going to talk about the left side. I'm just going to show you the right side. I'm going to focus on this, where you see there's 3 columns for to do, busy, and done. And each of these squares here represents a sticky note. On each sticky note, there would be a task. So when all the tasks that students identify would go into the to-do column, and then as they work on it, they would move it to busy, and when they get done, they would move it to done. Now, it's important to understand that this is not, this is just the stuff that you see. This is not the key of the method, right? This is just a tool. The key really of the method is that it facilitates the collaboration of the students, and that it makes the learning visible. So it helps everybody to be on the same page and to understand what are we working on and who is doing what at which given moment. You also see the run-up chart and the impediments area, right? So the run-up chart gives people an idea of, are we on track or not? So particularly for multi-week projects, this is a great feedback tool to understand, to tell the team, are we on track or not? And also to let faculty or teachers know which teams are on schedule, which teams are maybe behind, which teams are ahead. And it is a good conversation topic for the team to self-regulate. So as an example, like when I'm a teach with Eduscrum, I don't give homework. It's the teams that give themselves homework, right? They can assess, are we on schedule or not? And if not, what do we do to adjust? When they have problems, they can use the impediments area where they share, certain questions, certain problems that they have, and they can fill that out in there. So as soon as we have sticky notes and impediments, we see as faculty, we see what's going on and how we can support the team to move on. Maybe I'll take a quick break here and ask you guys if you have any questions about this. You can unmute or you can put in the chat. Okay, if there's no questions, I want to take a quick break here from presenting, and I want to share with you a video from some of my students that gives you a little bit of an impression about what's going on in the higher education and what students say about this whole experience.
What I'm hoping to get is that each one of them understand what kind of leadership skills they have in their own groups, that they know that those could be improved upon, and they'll hear that from their other group members. I'm hoping that what happens is that we have a real student-driven learning rather than me telling the students what they need to do. I'm hoping that they'll take more responsibility for the structure of the case study. I would say that it's forced me to change from being the sage on the stage to truly the guide on the side. I've given them the responsibility to ask me questions during class, so I do not lecture anymore. I look to them to be the person who seeks the information from me. I think overall it's been a positive experience for the students.
What was the experience like with Eduscrum this semester?
I really enjoyed using it. I feel like early on we were able to set really clear goals for ourselves and for our projects, doing all of our projects in the class. And then each week we had really clear ideas of what we were going to be doing, and then we were able to cross it off our list and move it to the done, which was kind of our group's favorite part of it. And actually seeing what we were accomplishing throughout the semester. That was really good.
In mind, it's very motivating to know that you're making progress and you're getting more frequent feedback along the way. That you're moving towards your goal. So that's great feedback that you're able to provide yourself.
We had to become very independent learners very fast. And I think that being able to clearly articulate all of our own success criteria, we were able to develop that kind of, this is what it's going to take to be an independent learner in this class, so that when the professor wants to be the guide on the side, that we are the facilitators of our own learning. I think this technique can be applied to so many different other things.
We missed the lab. We missed the sticky notes. We missed the monitoring, our own progress monitoring, and setting our own goals. And
it was so helpful to get all the projects done.
Yeah.
And now that we don't have it, it just feels kind of like chaos.
Like we're just trying to figure out where everything's going. It's just we miss it very much.
All right, so here are a few
So we teach seniors, and we got feedback from the seniors of they wanted more structure. So we, for the last couple of years, with
so here.
So Monique just commented, Christian, if you haven't seen the chat yet, she says, I really love this process for education, exclamation point. The IT and business world have been using it for a long time. Makes sense for us in education to finally use this amazing process.
Yeah, that's a great comment. Thank you, Monique. It is true that the business world is a little bit ahead on that. Nevertheless, you know, the question is, how can we adapt it so it's not quite the same as the way that they use it in the business world, but it still is really a fruitful tool. And what's interesting is that when students learn this already in their education in the school, they're better prepared for a future where future workplace where actually companies are using these techniques. Okay, so I want to show you a few tricks of how to use this in Teams. And I don't want to go too much into the details of Teams, but I'm just going to share a little bit about it with you guys. Maybe a quick show of hands, who has used Teams in the past? for specifically for instruction.
You can either chat
Yeah,
or raise your hand.
Yeah. Okay, so you should. I take that as a no or maybe. I want to make sure I'm sharing my screen right now. Can you guys all see that? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. And what I wanted to show you here is two examples. First, I'm going to show you. I'm doing now a Scrum board, but in Teams. Okay, and you can see what the advantages for this can be. So first of all, you can see here I have a Scrum board where I have to show that I'm an assignments, right? So if you create a Scrum board, you can create these columns. It's up to you to create those, right? I named them to do, busy, and done. Okay. And then what you can do is in the to do, you can add tasks, right? So I can add here, you know, prepare reading assignment for class, for example. Okay. I can set a due date. By when do I need to get this done? Well, this will be yesterday. Let's make it due tomorrow. And I can assign it to somebody. I'm going to assign this to myself, right? Okay. The same thing can go for writing a research paper, right? Writing a first draft, writing a second draft, creating a final presentation, right? So all these can be tasks that you can then move around. So for example, if I'm working on the first draft, I can move this to the busy area. Okay. When I'm done, I can move it to done. Right? And I can actually look at charts that show me how much is in the to-do still and how much is done, for example. Right. And you can even see who is doing what and who's getting their stuff done. So this is basically the tool that we looked at before, that Kanban board with sticky notes. That's this on steroids. So this is just for my work, right? I'm going to show you now here in the educational area, right? I can have this class. So to do this, I would create a new team, right? And now within a team, what you can do is once you have a new team, you can do what's called adding channels, right? And if you know all this, I don't want to bore you too much, but this is just to show this. And one trick that I've learned is when you do add channels, I can use general channels for, let's say, you know, information and just overall, you know, the announcements, right? And then for each module with content, you could add an additional channel, right? So modules can be channels, but now what I really want to focus on is this, that teams can be channels as well, right? So imagine if I'm teaching my advanced educational research methods class, I have different modules that I would like students to complete, but I also have team-based work that I assign to them. And what I can do here is team A, team B, team C, team D. Each of these teams have their own channel. I can, or you can assign students to these channels, right? And then now they have an environment where they can share files, they can share notes, right? And they also can have their own Eduscrum board in this team area, right? And here's another little example for them, right? These guys are busy writing the second draft of the research paper, and they're already done with writing the first part, the first draft. I'm sorry. So, and plus they can do all the other stuff. They can do the meetings. They can do, they can schedule stuff. They can collaborate. They can chat. Really a great tool to facilitate this collaboration within the team's environment here. You can also use this to facilitate collaboration across teams, right? You can easily add an additional channel where it's collaboration between teams or for specific projects, right? And you can also use this this environment to share, class materials, assignments, grades, everything else that you normally would do in a learning, in a LMS, in a learning management system, you can actually do through the Teams environment. Okay, I wanted to show you a little bit more about some experience in the classroom here. Are there any questions or comments at this point?
No questions in the chat so far.
No questions in the chat. Thank you, Stephen. Okay, so I'll share a little bit more experience with you guys. You should be able to see my presentation again. Is that the case?
Yes.
All right, great. One really crucial thing is to have team building, right? And that's the thing that I think with having this new situation with COVID, with people being at home, it's really about how do we create environments where the people don't feel isolated, where you also have social connections, right? Here you see a team of women. They just happen to be all women in this team. And, we create a whole spiel about, in team building, and we have people decide on a team name. So they chose the Wonder Women. Pretty soon they had a logo, right? They had a mascot, and then they started bringing their branded drinking cups to the classroom, and all of that is, it's silly, it's a little fun, but it's more meaningful than just being in a group one, and it's important for humans to feel part of something, right? So we want to really nurture that. How do we collaborate? How do we create an environment that's really conducive for collaboration, productive work? Here, just another example of a board, right? Now what I've shown you in Teams, we've simplified this with the Kanban board. But what's really important is, for example, these daily stand-ups. Right? And it doesn't have to be daily, it could be weekly. That's just what it's called now. But basically, at the beginning of a working session, let's say at the beginning of a sprint, we decide what are we going to work on, right? So students can assess their backlog, right? The work that they have that they see that they have to get done, and then they decide what are we going to do over this next chunk of time, over this next sprint. Then a really crucial as well, I talked a little bit about it, the retrospective, right? Here you see an example of a group of volunteers who organized the conference, and we worked together with the Scrum to plan the conference, to conduct the conference. Then afterwards, we also have process in place to do a retrospective, to do a reflection about, what went well, what didn't go so well, how can we improve further. And this, we continually do this, right? So what's really cool is when you do this with students over a semester, right? In the beginning, maybe the feedback and the reflection could be a little bit superficial, right? Everybody gets along well, and you don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. But then when you see that the that when you see that the conflict might arise, that people are getting a little bit more stressed out, or they don't do what they promised, then this conversation become much more important. And that's exactly what we talk about when we mean, social emotional learning, right? How do you get along? How do you tell each other when you don't agree? How do you manage conflict when it's not that easy to talk about difficulties, right? But those are skills that people need at the workplace, and that's something that I specifically plan time to practice as well during the coursework. Here then some other examples from specifically from educational leadership, right? Students have taken these skills that they learned in class and applied this to their own work in schools and at the university. And you can imagine this, you can easily now translate this process into just using Teams, for example, to manage collaboration in a virtual environment. And now, what we do now is with Eduscrum USA, we help faculty and leadership to develop skills, right? To develop the skills how to use these systems. We do workshops and we do research projects as well. And the question is, once you know how the process works, what the intent is behind it, which tools do you use to facilitate that? There's a lot of software that you can use, but I think some of the aspects of why Microsoft Teams might work really well with this is that you have everything in one spot. Right? There's one login, and then you have files, video, call, chat, everything is there. So that makes it simple. Then it's easy to collaborate, right? That all the files are shared and they're collaborative files. I think that's what's so powerful about the Microsoft Office suite, is that PowerPoints are shared, documents are shared, Excel files are shared, right? And there's none of these emailing files each other back and forth, and then you don't know which do you have the most current version, etc. And then very important nowadays with our students is that it's mobile and that it's easy to communicate. Right, so we can see now, once you get the hang of it, of the Microsoft Teams, right, it's a really easy platform to chat, to share information, to call, and to have a video chat functions as well. I'm gonna open it up for questions here, but if you're interested in more information, right, you can go to either feel free to shoot me an email at c1.csufresno.edu. You can also follow me at Eduscrum USA or at Wandeler on Twitter, or there's also more information at eduscrumusa.com, where we continuously put out resources, we put out videos, and as we learn more, and especially as this situation with COVID further develops, we'll be sharing more resources about how people use these tools to serve the students better and to be more productive as faculty.
Christian, I'm looking at the Eduscrum USA site, and
yeah.
I can see that there are training opportunities. But other than accessing training, which I'm sure is a contract basis, it looks like all the other resources are free. Is that correct?
Oh yes, we have a ton of free resources. There is templates that you can download. There's the Eduscrum guide, which is basically a rule book of how to conduct Eduscrum, which is also there that you can download. Yes, there's really a lot for facilitating that people can do it. We have regular online trainings now where people can become certified Eduscrum teachers and faculty. And what's good about this is when I started using it 3 years ago, it really helped a lot to have a coach to convert one of my lectures sessions, right, a whole semester course, into the Eduscrum format. it just it helped a lot. It was a lot easier, and that's the goal when we certify somebody, is that we help them to either translate a course into the Eduscrum format or a project, right? And that's really it. So if you have a project that you want to conduct with students, or if you have a course that you would like to revamp a little bit more, make it a bit more engaging, really anytime you have something that makes sense to have teams work on, this is I think this is a good resource to work with. And especially now, you know, that when you can have, you know, if you're in a hybrid environment or just an online environment, personally, I have two versions of courses. I have courses that are self-directed, self-paced, or more individual, right? For example, I teach a statistics class where the students, they just want to get it done. I just noticed, sorry, that my camera was off. Right, the statistics course, students just want to get it done. Some of them are fast. They get it, you know, they might have more prior knowledge, etc. They just go in there and get it done. And others, that they have a math anxiety or statistics anxiety. They want more interaction. They would like to be in a study group, etc. So there's ways of offering a modality of choices for the students, where you can really connect with people the way that they want to learn, right? And I think the Eduscrum is really a good way of putting people in a group, putting in a team, and then helping support each other. So now I've been talking a lot. I want to, you know, I'm curious, are there questions or comments that you all have?
Feel free to unmute and talk to us, or write in the chat, and Dr. Wandeler and I will pick up on it there.
Hi guys, this is Mary Monique from Dallas. I just see the benefit in this. I've always been a believer in it. Having been in the ed tech world for a while. So knowing that this is available to us in K-12 and higher ed, I just see it as a benefit. So I'm a fan, and I plan to learn more about it. Definitely plan to learn more about, like, I'd like to see what, well, I'll tell you why I want to learn more about it first. Not that just because I'm a fan of the process, but I want to learn more about it because I'm just taking on a new role as a senior director of professional learning and content development. So I have a team of professional development consultants that I want to be able to not only use this process with, but help them to be able to incorporate this in their day-to-day work as they support teachers in professional development and implementation as well. So
yes,
how this would help my new team.
Yes.
So I can access resources, or when I'm ready to reach out to someone, I could just reach out to one of you. That how this works, or?
Yes, please do. You can either you should have the access to the slideshow, where you can you know, my contact information is in there. Or what you also can do is, if you go to the website eduscrumusa.com, there's a contact form that you can fill out.
Okay.
And you know, that's another way.
Okay.
Or hit me up on Twitter, you know, at Wandeler. And that we'll get to it too. I think that case that you describe, right, a group of content specialists that support teachers, that's a great way to show, you know, kind of make transparent what are we working on, what are the needs, without being overly controlling and hovering over people, right?
Absolutely.
right? But being flexible, you can see what are we doing, where do we need maybe need support each other.
Right.
I think it's great. One thing that I can share really quick is we've used it with professional learning communities for teachers, right? PLCs.
Uh-huh.
And at this particular school we use it with is in the past, you know, the principal, the situation was this: the principal gave time every Friday for an hour for teachers to work. And you know, it wasn't quite clear how did the teachers use this time, right? They would, it seemed like they you know, they kind of hang out with each other and maybe do some grading, etc., right? Which is okay too, but which didn't really, there wasn't really a whole lot of evidence of the teachers growing and you know, helping each other out as far as that.
Right.
And so what we did is we used the Eduscrum as a process where we created two sorts of teams. One was grade level teams, and then the other one was subject teams, right? And then we would alternate. One week they would meet in the grade level, and then the other week we would meet at the subject level. And then for each, so the grade level team, they decided, what do we want to work on? You know, what is our story? What are the key things that we want to focus on? And they would then break that down into different tasks that they would have to get done, right? So think about it, right? At the beginning, you just think about what is the goal? What are we working on? What's important to us? And then we develop a plan. How do we get there? And we break that down into tasks that we can track, and that we can, you know, we can collaborate. We can either we have to do it together or we divvy it up, and we make it visible. And so there's kind of two effects about this, right? First of all, we had a big room, and all the teachers would meet in the same big room in different teams. And we would do in the beginning, we would do a little share out. Hey, what are we going to work on? Just really quick, right? That little stand up. Hey, we work on this today, boom, boom, boom. We go around and just share really quick. Then they would work, right? Because after all, that's what they, you know, we want to help them get stuff done and make their lives easier and get ahead of the curve, right? And then at the end, they would report out really quick. Hey, this is what we get done. These are some things we talked about. These are maybe some questions we had, etc. And what happened is there was really a true exchange between teachers, right? They could steal ideas from each other. And they really, you know, it gave them a structure that helped them, I think, be a little bit more productive or a little bit more intentional about what they were trying to get out of their time.
Absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that. I'm very visual, so you literally just painted that picture of how this would look with teachers. So I like that. I love the accountability metric. I love, you know, I think someone mentioned the project management process becomes visible to everyone. So I agree with that as well. And it keeps everybody focused. It makes the task, you know, pretty visible as well. It helps you to self-pace and keeps you on task. And eventually, you know, everyone has their part. But we all come back together to say, hey, look, we've met the goal, you know, so, and we can celebrate that.
Right.
As we complete the task, we can celebrate those tiny wins in between as we complete those tasks. So I love this process.
Yeah, yes, you got it exactly right. Celebration is important. That's huge, right? Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I hope it goes well and that you can, you know, that you find it useful.
Thanks. And I follow you on Twitter, so.
Okay, great. Yes, I'm gonna be happy. You know, if you have questions, I'd be happy to help out and get you guys going.
Awesome.
Are there other questions or comments?
Christian, do you already have the URL for the presentation that you could post in the chat, or else they'll have to wait until the session recording goes live in the next day or so?
I'm trying to upload it right now to the chat.
Oh, okay.
it takes a little time. Let me see here.
It's a big file.
Yeah, it's a big file. There's a lot of pictures in there.
Great. Most of the comments in the chat are me summarizing what you were saying based on what I know about Scrum boards and the process.
Yes, I think you hit it on the nail. Yeah.
So Becca just commented that she's looked at session recordings, and I've learned also they don't connect our presentations to the session recordings. They're just posting the session recordings. So thanks for uploading the file.
Yes, you should. I see it's about 75% done, so it just would take a little bit longer to for you guys to see it. And then if you can get it, you can always email me.
Email you, right?
Yes.
So while we're wrapping up in the next minute or so, I wanted to say, as looking at Eduscrum as an application to higher education, K-12 education, and why haven't we been doing this before? I'm an instructional technologist, and we sit between human resource, business and development, and education. We straddle these two worlds. So we apply business techniques to the design and delivery of instruction. And the Eduscrum model just resonates well with me because of the way it's organized and because it's systematic in its approach, allowing for the flexibility that's so necessary when you need teams to be creative and collaborative. And I think your presentation starts with the word agile. So I see all of these applications, and this has been a fantastic hour for me to be here with you.
Great, thank you.
So I see the presentation is up and it's in the chat. You can click and download it from there, as well as contacting Dr. Wandeler at his email address. I had your email in here previously.
Yes, it's right.
It's hard to go.
Oh yeah, I'll repost it. And yeah, Becca says her husband joined the team who uses Scrum. Right. Yeah.
Yes, of course. I first learned about it from software people.
No, it's great, and yeah, math projects are a great environment as well to use Scrum.
Hi, Christian. For some reason, it's telling me that I can't access the presentation.
I wonder if it's still.
It says access denied.
I just downloaded it.
It did.
So it is there.
Okay. Let's try again.
Do you have a Microsoft account?
Oh, yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. Because I know that's been a problem sometimes.
Okay. I reposted the link. I don't know if that would help.
Okay, let me try the other one.
It's for some as well. Thank you. Yes, no.
It did open for me automatically through my Teams account, but it also looks like I can click the three dots and I could download it.
Yeah, that's what I tried, the ellipsis as well. And
yeah, and
let's see, I'm gonna try it again.
Otherwise, Monique or anybody else for whom it doesn't work, if you put your email in the chat, I can shoot you an email right now as well.
Okay, I'll put my email in now. Technology works great when it works.
Right.
If you had joined Christian and I in the 20 minutes before the hour, you would have seen us wrestling with this technology to get his presentation up and running.
Yeah, gotta love when that happens. Gotta love it.
Well, as an educator, I believe in being transparent with my students. I'm not perfect, but I am transparent.
Yeah.
You'll see my mistakes as I go along. Christian, you can stop the recording and it will automatically connect. The organizers of the Global EdTech Academy will be able to get it automatically.
All right, so I'm going to stop it now. And Jose, I see your email as well, and Alfonso Neves, I see your email as well. So I'll be sending you all a message here later today.
Well, for some reason, I just copied and I kept at it because I'm persistent like that.
Yes.
Finally,
Yes.
finally, it worked. So I'm good, gentlemen.
Nice. All good. Wonderful. Glad to have you with us. Appreciate hearing your story.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
All right, Natasha, have a nice day. Thank you all for coming,
Christian.
and I wish you a great weekend.
Thank you so much. Have a good weekend, everyone. Be safe out there.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bet. Christian, I need to bounce and get ready for Cynthia's presentation at 11. So great to be here with you and to learn more about the work that you are doing, which is, in this case, you are only focusing on Eduscrum. I would love to know more about the research that you started at Stanford and that you're continuing to work on, since it deals with the affective domain, and that's one of the most complex domains to operate within a teaching and education context. We typically think of it in a counseling context, but I am convinced you could create opportunities to transfer this into a more non-counseling context. But that's just Steve thinking over 5 years of his life. Anyway, what a pleasure to meet you today.
Yeah, same here. Thank you for your assistance. That was great.
Bet. Love being the wingman. I can synthesize stuff on the fly and be able to type fast while you can focus on the presentation.
Yeah, no, that was
so
great.
Glad to help. All good. I'll reach out another time.
Yeah,
see if we can talk before you get too busy with school, right?
Yes, I'd love to hear more about your work as well.
Have a great day, my friend. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.